Hi, my name is Priscilla. I'm an independent fashion designer of Kim Dave. Join me on this lesson of how to make a shirt. I have my measuring tape here and I'm going to show you how to take the measurements that you'll be needing to make your own shirt. I'm going to start off from the shoulder, work my way down to the waist, the hip, and then the measurements you'll be needing for your sleeve as well. I have a measuring tape that has two different units. There is inches on one side and centimeters on the other side, so you can work with whichever you're comfortable with. The first measurement I'm going to take is across the shoulder. So this goes from one shoulder to the next, and you want to try and feel for, there is a bone that sits right on that edge on both sides there. The next is around your bust. You would need to wrap the tape around the fullest part of your bust. And while you take your measurements, try and add a little bit of what I call ease. This would allow you to actually breathe in the garment. So I like to add just one finger underneath the tape to ensure that I can breathe in and out if I decide to work with these measurements the way they are. Below that is the waistline. This is different for different people. Some people have their waist higher, some have theirs lower. So try and feel for the most slender part of your body. Mine is above my belly button. Some people have theirs along their belly button. So I'm just going to feel for mine. Mine is around here. Move the tape around a little bit to be sure that it's nice and comfy. One finger test. Take note of that measurement. Let's move on to vertical measurements. With my tape, I'm going to measure from my shoulder to my bust line. So try and feel for that bone I mentioned earlier on. And down to your bust line, this would be your shoulder to bust. This varies from person to person. Mine sits around 10 inches. Some people have theirs at 8. So I'm going to take note of that and use that in my pattern later on. Next up, you will need to measure from your bust line to your waistline. So if you can keep the tape on your bust and then kind of like feel for where your natural waistline is and then take note of that measurement as well. Some people have long torso, some have shorter torso. Mine is really short because I'm a small girl. So just work with a measurement that suits your body type. And then from the waist to the hip, hold the tape where your waistline is and then find your hip line, which will be the fullest part of your hip. So that is around this area. And then take note of that dimension as well. Now for the length of the shirt, I'm going to measure from my shoulder all the way to the point that I want my shirt to stop. I kind of want mine to be around my hip so I can wear it open with leggings or shorts in the summer. So I think mine might sit around 20, 26, 25 inches, somewhere around here. You can have yours longer or shorter if you want. The choice is yours. Just work with the length that you're comfortable with. The next measurement I'm going to be taking is what I call the nipple to nipple measurement. It's just self-explanatory. I am going to measure from one bust to the other. And this is going to help me plan my dart so it falls underneath my bust in such a way that it's flattering on my body. So it's going to go from this point, basically the fullest part of my bust on one, and then to the other. Mine sits around 6 or 6.5 inches if I really want it to be like on point. That is the dimension here. Now for the sleeve of the shirt, I want something that is a full length sleeve. I'm going to be measuring from, thankfully I already have a shirt on. This is really going to guide me. I'm going to measure from my sleeve head here down to around my wrist. This shirt is going to have a cuff, so that's going to be added measurements. Keep that in mind when you're measuring the length of your sleeve. Mine, I think I would work with 19 inches, so I can add a cuff that is about 4 or 5 inches, so it goes all the way down to like the end of my wrists. For the cuff, I'll say 4 inches. 4 inches is good because the one I have on here is about 4.5. If you want something really wide like what I have on here, this is 4.5, but I think I'll do 4. So it's a little bit narrow around the arm. You'd also need to measure around your wrists so you have an idea of how the cuff is going to fit. You want to have, I would say, an extra inch of measurement so it wraps around and then you have space for your buttons to actually sit along the side of your cuff. So I have 8 inches here, but I'm going to add an additional inch to make it 9. So I have enough measurement to stitch into the bottom of my sleeve and then have room for my buttons and my buttonholes to stand well. Now for the sleeve dimension itself, so that's around your bicep, your elbow, and then the ends. This I'm going to measure with my arms bent up. So when I have the shirt on, it's actually comfortable and it doesn't rip when I'm using it or when I'm hugging someone. Do my 1 finger roll to ensure that it's comfortable. This is about 12.5. Then I'm going to measure around my elbow next. Do a little bit of movement there. I have 12 inches on here. Then I'm going to measure around the bottom of the sleeve. I have about 10 inches here, like so. I would say when taking measurements, if you have a mirror, especially if you're taking measurements on yourself, if you have a mirror in front of you, that would be very helpful to ensure that the tape is actually like straight across your body. Like when you're taking measurements around your bust, your waist, or your hip, you are sure that everything is actually correct. And then write down your measurements as you take them. Some people believe that they can remember everything, but just write it down so that way you don't mix up numbers together and you actually are working with the correct measurements for the different parts of the garment. Thank you for joining me on this lesson. This was one part of my brand new class on Skillshare. Join me in the class to learn how to make your own shirt from scratch. Click the link below. I can't wait to see you there.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos.